Hey guys, welcome to This Week on the Challenge with me, Adrian. Today we're going to recap episode 4 of Total Madness, and this week's episode was just kind of meh. I think it's kind of hard to top what happened in last week's episode, and actually the first scene in the house is everyone reeling from the fact that CT, a challenge legend, was sent home last week by newcomer rookie Jay. And so everyone is really worried about their own safety in the house, and I just have to call out here in this opening scene this outfit donned by Jordan, which I can only call hipster farmer chic. Question mark, but I thought that was a pretty hilarious outfit. Let me know what you think and what you would call it as. And so we also get a scene of Ashley talking to Maddie, and they both decide not to say each other's names for elimination. So we get a nice scene of them seemingly working together, and then we also see Bear still flirting hardcore and heavily with Kailah, and Kailah just looks so disinterested, and she's so expressionless when she talks to him, and she doesn't want to talk to him, and so she leaves the room to go hang out with her other girlfriends. And Bear decides, you know what, I'm gonna spray this fire extinguisher on her and all over her friends. And that's exactly what he did. He walked into that room, he took that fire extinguisher and sprayed it across everyone, and all those girls were pissed because there's so much smoke, ash, and all this crap all over their face, eyes, their hair, inside their nostrils. And the most pissed of all is Ashley, who starts yelling, she starts screaming, she actually spits right in his face, which is so gross because it would never even come to me to spit on someone. I think just how quickly she did that kind of tells you what kind of person she is, how she usually does in fights, and just how dirty she fights. That is so nasty. And Maddie didn't appreciate that either, because she started getting up and getting loud with Ashley and telling her how that she was wrong. Ashley decides to fight her. This happens in front of the whole house who's just watching the both of them, but Ashley starts throwing low blows at Maddie, saying stuff that Maddie had confided to her in private, which wasn't cool. And then Nani decides to jump into this fight, getting all loud and yelly, blah blah blah, but Nani had no reason to get into this fight, so sit down, girl. So the challenge is called Cold War, and it's going to be played in teams of 5. So 3 people are going to be called the divers, where they go in this pool of freezing water, and they're basically there to unhook these puzzle pieces at the bottom of the tank, pull them out of the water, and then fix this puzzle at the very end. And then the other 2 people are called the icebreakers, and they're standing on top of this platform, breaking blocks of ice and then tossing these blocks down the chute into the water to make the water even colder for the next team. The cool thing about this is that since they're going to be played in teams of 5, this was an opportunity for 5 people to get into the tribunal instead of 3. So, more people being safe in this challenge. And so in the first team, the divers were Rogan, Fessy, and Josh. And these are arguably, one of the bigger, the biggest guys in the house. And so you would think that with so much muscle and more body fat, I don't know if these guys even have body fat at this point, but just more mass, they would feel less cold by the water, hopefully. But they talk about how cold the water is and how painful it is. And so they start off, the water looks like they have a counter, it's at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. That's about 15 degrees Celsius, I think. And so Josh, Fessy, and Rogan get the puzzle pieces out of the water fairly quickly, actually, but they struggle at putting the puzzle pieces together. So again, it's really important to be really physical and strong in these challenges, but it's also very mental. You have to be really smart at fixing puzzles. So that is kind of where they struggled at. The next team we have is Nelson, Kailah, and Dee, who right off the bat are struggling in the water. Nelson is frozen and can't feel his fingers anymore. Same with Kailah and Dee as well, but Dee doesn't want to quit, and that's usually the attitudes we want to see from our players here, and she refuses to quit, meaning Nelson and Kailah can't quit as well. And so they're, by the end of it, just kind of standing there trying to just not die while they're in this water. And TJ actually has to pull the 3 of them out because they've been in there so long that it's gotten really dangerous for them, because if their body temperature drops even more, they could possibly suffer from hypothermia. And so TJ pulls them out. When Nelson comes out, he actually can't even walk. He's fallen to the ground, and they said he's just so completely out of it that they send him into the ambulance to the hospital. So that scene we have been seeing in the previews of someone being in the ambulance, like that's Nelson possibly suffering from hypothermia from this challenge. So very scary, very dangerous. Then we get the next team, who's made up of Jay, Tori, and Wes. And Wes is really sneaky in this way. He decides to stand in the corner of the pool and pees to make the water a little bit warmer. And you know, I don't really think that this really raises like the temperature too much, but I think any little trick or advantage Wes can get, he will take. So that's just one of the examples of how kind of like smart and how much he's always thinking of small things to get an advantage in this game. So they get their puzzle pieces from the bottom relatively quickly and also put the puzzle pieces together relatively quickly as well. And so next we get Bananas, Anissa, and Bear going in. They also jump in, they get their puzzle pieces from the bottom and also fix it on the wall relatively quickly. And then the last team we have is Cory, Bailey, and Kyle, who by the time they jump in, the water temperature is now 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 10 degrees Celsius. And so like it's dropped pretty drastically. I think at this point, like every single degree is probably like felt very heavily by your body. And so they actually couldn't even complete the challenge and decided to quit because they couldn't take it anymore, which usually I would be like a little bit hard on them. But judging by the fact that they could be facing hypothermia if they had stayed in the water for longer, like Nelson, and potentially damaging their internal organs, I think it's, you know, a good idea for them to get out. So thought this was kind of one of the more dangerous and like harder challenges that we've seen so far. And my rating for this challenge would be a 1. Okay, I mean, not that I can't do it. I mean, I would jump into the water, but do I think I can do it? Probably not. I think it's, I don't like the cold, and I think your body really freezes up when you're in the cold. So no, 1 star. And so in this challenge, the winners are Johnny, Bear, Anissa, Casey, and Big T, who all make up the tribunal. Back at the house, Kyle and Maddie talk about wanting to vote Ashley into the elimination, and it's pretty easy for Maddie given that she just got into a fight with Ashley the night before in front of the whole house. And so she kicks off the nomination by voting for Ashley. A bunch of girls in the house follow suit, and Kyle kind of steps up and says, hey, you know what, like let's not make Ashley sit through everyone in the house voting against her. Like if we all agree, like she's pretty much going up, and not a single person disagrees. So Ashley is going into the elimination, and she gets up, she storms out, she starts crying, she cusses, she gets angry, and it's just like that saying, like the more times she storms out of the room, the less effect it has on people, which rings really true for Ashley. Like we see her having a meltdown every single season without fail, and this season is no exception. The next scene we have here is of them going out to the bar again, the same bar we saw them at last week. So it kind of seems like they're only allowed to go out to this one bar anytime they're out of the house, which is kind of funny. But we see Johnny Bananas kind of take like Big T under his wing, but in a way like kind of making her his mole to try to gather information. But he's also trying to teach her gameplay. And so she brings Kailah, Jenna, and Nani, a few of the girls, to come talk to her. And she basically is trying to say, if I don't interrogate you this week or put you in the elimination, you have to protect me next week. Which is good gameplay, except it doesn't really hold a ton of weight right now because Big T really still has to prove herself in this game. So it's a good attempt at gameplay, but Big T, you still have to prove yourself here. Back at the house again, we see Bear talking to the other guys about how much he likes Kailah. And so not only is he telling Kailah how much he likes her, but he's also telling all the other guys in the house, I'm sure everybody in the house, cameraman, producers, crew, like anybody, how much he likes Kailah. And just like they're just showing how persistent he is and how much they're really setting up for their hookup in the future, which we've already seen in the previews. And so it's a mess because Kailah has a boyfriend in real life, which they keep talking about too. And I see on Instagram that they're still together, so I'm sure they patched things up. And so we get to the tribunal interrogation where they choose to interrogate Dee, Tori, and Maddie. And so Dee comes in first. She says she really wants to go in and get her chance to win that red skull, whether it's a physical or a mental challenge. The girls, you know, for all of their interrogations, Anissa, Casey, and Big T are kind of asking, you know, if we give you what you want this week, what are you going to do for us next week? And so that was kind of their line of questioning. And then for the guys, actually, Bear decided to ask Dee. Ashley nominated Johnny Bananas last week. Who was her accomplice? And Dee was like, me. And she didn't even bother lying. And Johnny asked a fair question. I mean, he said, if you voted for me last week, who's to say you're not going to vote for me again next week? And she said, well, you're not my target. I'm not going to vote for you. And I mean, in that situation, what else would Dee have said? If she said, no, I'm still going to vote for you, then Johnny's going to go against whatever she wants to do. And so, I mean, Dee didn't really have a way out of that one. But Tori comes in next. She says if it's a physical challenge, she wants it. If it's a puzzle, she doesn't, because Ashley's good at puzzles. And then Maddie comes in after, and she basically just says, guys, like, it's not my time. I don't want to go in. Please don't put me in, physical or mental. I'm not ready. And so different from the three of them. But Tori and Dee do come out and discuss how much of a power trip the tribunal members are on, which is not going to bode well in the future, because whenever you're on a power trip, people are not going to remember that very well. So not good for that. So we finally get to Purgatory, and we see a spinning wheel looking like a puzzle board, and then we see a bunch of potted just pots, actually, a bunch of pots in the air, and it's basically like a puzzle type of challenge. And so, I mean, challenge producers have really been setting it up for depending who goes in the elimination. So I mean, knowing Ashley is good at puzzles, this looks geared towards her. And let us not forget that Jennifer, who went home 2 weeks ago, super weak at everything, and she definitely was part of the easiest challenge, like the easiest elimination we've ever seen in the history of the challenge. So lots of producer interference here, I think. And so the tribunal decided to vote in Dee to go into the elimination against Ashley. And it's actually really surprising that all three girls in the elimination this week, Anissa, Casey, and Big T, none of them wanted to go into the elimination to go against Ashley to win that red skull. And honestly, it surprises me, because I think that it's going to be really difficult for either three of them to get voted to go into the elimination for their chance to win the red skull in the future, because they don't come like with a ton of allies in this house. And also, I don't know, I think Ashley is really strong, but this wasn't, I guess they hadn't heard the rules yet, but it wasn't that like heavy of a puzzle challenge. And so kind of lame that all three of them didn't want to go in, but now we get Dee. I just have to say that I did my hair like this today in braids, because this is how Tori and Dee wore their hair in the elimination, and I just wanted to feel like I was in the elimination also, so that's why I did my hair like this. But this elimination was called Code Breaker, and they basically have this spinning wheel where they have to spin it 5 times, and it's gonna land on a symbol, in which they have to take this huge giant die, roll it right below the potted, I keep wanting to say plant, but just like the hanging pots, smash the pots, which there are symbols hidden inside. And so they basically have to match these symbols to the symbol that they've spun on their wheel. And so it's difficult, because there's like, I think something like 20 plus hanging pots in the air, but also they have to remember exactly where the symbols are. And so they kick it off. Ashley gets her first symbol matched. Dee follows very quickly with her first, second, and third, and just like that, Dee is up 3-1. And the house is actually not really cheering for anyone, which is surprising. You know, I would have expected more of them to cheer for Dee, because most of the house kind of hates Ashley, and I would just naturally expect them to have voted for Dee, but it looks like a lot of them actually don't really like her because of how arrogant she's gotten. And so like Dee really has to watch that, or she's not gonna have a lot of allies in the future. And so after that, Dee gets her 4th and 5th symbol very quickly, and they have to take all these symbols, flip them over, and put seasons of the challenge, which is on the back of these symbols, in chronological order. And so Dee, poor Dee, who lives in Australia, she says that they don't air the challenge in Australia, so she has no idea what what order the seasons go in, but Ashley definitely knows. But Ashley is struggling to get the symbols to match what's on her spinning wheel. But Wes, who's standing on the side, is actually guiding Dee and helping her put these seasons in chronological order, which the rest of the house is so mad at. They all start screaming and like, you know, talking over him so that she can't hear him and really trying to sabotage her, which is just, again, makes it look so bad, like really shows that she doesn't have allies in this house at this point. But Wes doesn't care because Dee is his number one girl, given that they have been partners on a previous season, and so he really does try guiding her. But the weird thing is that I don't know if Dee couldn't hear him or if he was giving her the wrong instruction, but she got her seasons checked several times and they came back wrong like several times, and there's only like 5 seasons that TJ gave them. And so Ashley is catching up very quickly and Dee's starting to panic. She says she can't even hear Wes over the noise of everyone in the house, but Dee does manage to get them in chronological order and TJ blows the whistle. So just like that, Dee defeats Ashley in the elimination and she wins her Red Skull in order to get into the finals. As Ashley exits, you know, she cries, and I thought it was actually kind of sweet because she was telling the house how much she enjoyed being there, how this was such a good group of people, and I was like, wow, like this is a really nice side of Ashley, not to like throw a tantrum before she leaves. But we still had a minute to go in the episode. So I mean, right before she leaves, she decides to put on sweet Ashley but also demonic Ashley, and she goes after Wes and screams at him for basically helping Dee in the final elimination against her. She says that they're both friends, but you know, I agree with that, but I think Wes's alliance has always been stronger with Dee versus any other girl in the house, and so it wasn't surprising for me to see him help her. And so I mean, Ashley was seemingly very pissed at that and was cussing him out right before she left, and that was how she exited the season of Total Madness. Before I forget, in terms of my playability of that elimination, I would give myself like a 3 or 4, I think. It wasn't super difficult. I mean, it wasn't really even much of a puzzle, or if you hit the right pots with the right symbols quicker, you would obviously win. And so it also depends like what symbol you're spinning on that board. So yeah, it wasn't really puzzle or physical in this one, honestly. So I mean, I'm gonna give myself a 4. And so yeah, that was episode 4. Like I said, it wasn't super like interesting, it wasn't super exciting, but that's because we had a crazy episode last week. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the episode, what you think of the season so far, and also how well you would do on the challenge, because I would love to know that. Thank you for watching, guys, and we will talk again next week. Bye.